Hi, it's Marilyn from Marilyn Dishes. Today I'm going to make a Tres Leches cake in honor of Cinco de Mayo. I'm using the recipe from Bon Appetit. I'll post the recipe later on my website. It's a very simple cake. There's just egg whites that are beaten stiff, and then the egg yolks, vanilla, whole milk, which I happen to have in the fridge, sugar, and the first step is to beat the egg whites until they're stiff. So I'll just get that going. I have the whisk attachment in my mixer. I have the egg whites, I've divided them, and I'm just going to beat this and I'll be right back. Here are the beaten egg whites. Now we're going to add the egg yolks. There's 3 egg yolks, so we're going to add them one at a time and beat after each addition. Then the flour and the milk will be added alternately. So the flour has some cinnamon and some baking powder that I whisked in there. It's a pretty simple recipe. Then the batter goes into a prepared cake pan, a 9x13 cake pan that's been greased and floured, and the oven is preheating to 350. Okay, so the egg yolks are added to the egg whites. Now I forgot to mention there is some vanilla, 2 teaspoons of vanilla that gets added to this. I'm going to mix the flour and the milk alternately, and then I'll show you the batter when it's mixed. I completely forgot to add the sugar. That was supposed to be added gradually before you add the egg yolks, but I've just added it now, and I'm gonna mix it in, and we're gonna hope for the best. Here's the batter, and I've scraped down the sides while it was mixing to make sure that all the dry ingredients are incorporated into the wet. Now it just goes into the prepared pan. I'll smooth out the top and pop it in the oven. See, it says for about 25 minutes. And then we put a sauce on. I'll be mixing up a sauce in a minute. That's whipping cream, evaporated milk, condensed milk, and rum. And then that's put on the hot cake. I'll see you when the cake is done. I just read the recipe, which, you know, is always a good thing to do. So the cake goes in the oven at 350 for 25 minutes, and then the oven is lowered to 325, and you continue baking the cake until it's brown and it springs back. Let's make the sauce. It goes on the cake when the cake is hot, so I want it to be ready. You see that? I'm just whisking it together. Hi, so the cake is done. You can see it. It looks beautiful. And I have the cooling rack over a baking sheet. I cut around the edge of the cake so that it would come out of the pan easily. And I'm just going to flip it over. So the easiest way to do this, I think, is to take the cooling rack, put it on top of the cake pan. There it is. Can you see that? Sorry. Okay, there's the cake. Now, we're supposed to poke a bunch of holes all over the cake. And I'm going to use the skewer as suggested in the recipe. Then we're going to pour some of the sauce over. After you poke a bunch of holes in the top, you use about half of the sauce on the cake and let it sit for 10 minutes. Then the cake gets flipped over onto a serving platter, which I don't really think I have one this big. I'm going to put it back into the cake pan. It's always hard for me to judge which is half, but we'll just see how it goes. So just pour the sauce on slowly. Any extra sauce that goes into the baking sheet, onto the baking sheet, we're going to pour over the cake after. This is going to sit for 10 minutes to allow the sauce to soak through the cake. Okay, set my timer for 10 minutes, and then we're going to flip the cake over. The sauce had soaked into the underside of the cake for 10 minutes, and I flipped the cake back into the cake pan. I'm just going to be serving the cake from this pan. I poured the remaining sauce over top, and you can see it's already soaking in. After it's soaked in and the cake cools, we're gonna have a taste. I know that I usually have Murray taste everything that I've made, but he's not home. He's working, and really, this just looks delicious. I'm gonna have a little taste before he gets here. Kind of like, you know, I'm taste testing it. This cake is kind of gooey and drippy, and oh, it looks, oh. Wow. That is just so good. You really have to try this recipe. Oh, it's so good.